What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So as y'all know, I have been playing different games, or I guess you could say older games on the PS3, and well, I had to go revisit the one racing game I really never got to beat. That is going to be Need for Speed Pro Street. Now, if you are wondering what I do mean by that, I never actually got to beat this game back in the day, and in fact, I'm not going to lie, I really wasn't the biggest fan of it. I wasn't really enjoying it, and in fact, I barely even got past the Battle Machine event back in the day, so I did end up seeing this in the store. I'm like, you know what? We're going to be in 2025, right? This game came out in 2007, man. Isn't that insane? Think about that for a minute. We are legit, what is that? 3, 10, 5, what is that? Like 18 years almost, bro. Like, this game is old, man. And crazily enough, playing it again, I never actually got to beat it, but I'm fairly far into it looking at the menu here. So I can race against the drift boss there, also the grip one. And then moving down over here, I did also end up unlocking the drift one as well. So I'm finally getting into that, then also doing the speed challenge as well. So I'm going pretty far into the game. And in this video, guys, I am going to go through basically one event of each. So I'm going to do a grip race, one of the, oh, hit the wrong button. I'm going to do a grip race. I'm then going to the drag event, also a drift, and then finally one of the speed challenges here. I'm pretty much going to do one of each event in this video. And do not worry, I am going to pretty much revisit this and do more of them, or go over some other stuff in Need for Speed Pro Shoot that I did want to talk about. But without further ado, though, let's jump right into this. So if you are wondering the vehicles I am running, it is going to be the 911 Turbo. I know this car is great. Again, I have been progressing in this game a bit. And it is kind of weird because back in the day, I wasn't the biggest fan of Pro Street. Like, I just didn't really enjoy it for some reason. And now playing the game, I kind of like it, man. Like, I think this game is pretty dope. Is it going to have flaws? Well, to be honest, every game somewhere probably does. And we all do know, once again, that Pro Street is going to be, what, 2007? So you're looking at around almost 18 years old for that matter. So yeah, this game is probably going to have some flaws here and there, whether that's going to be the handling or some other things and stuff like that. And what in the world am I looking at right now? Oh, this is going to be the showdown thing, man. I totally forgot about this. The showdown thing. This is also the last one I have to do before I can fight like the final race boss or whatever and stuff like that. But either way, guys, I do feel like playing Pro Shoot again, going through this game. There's a lot of things I do find fun about it. There's going to be a few things I'm a tad, I guess, mixed on, which we all do know is probably going to happen. But without further ado, though, let's now jump into an event. So for this, I'll start off with a grip class, I guess. Let's use the 911 Turbo. I know I'm probably going to get some mixed opinions on the vehicles I am using, guys, but look, I'm going to be real. I did want to buy some of the better cars. I was looking up different things, seeing what people thought about it. I did end up getting the Zonda F. The reason why I did end up getting the Zonda F for speed is I did get one of the free car token things. So I'm like, you know what? Let me buy the most expensive car in the game with the free token. Am I right? Wouldn't that be the smartest thing to do? I mean, it probably would, but let's jump right into this event here. One thing I do like about the grip events is I feel like you can pretty much run any car that you probably feel like using in it. Like, you're not going to be tied to one vehicle. I feel like you can run something like the R34 or pretty much any car you probably do enjoy using. Now, whoa, bro just disappeared. Now, one thing I do know, though, is I am going to be aware that the 911 Turbo, man, this car is honestly insane. Like, you guys probably already saw me fly by the AI. They're not even trying. So a few takeaways here, playing Pro Street here in 2025 on the PlayStation 3. What are some things I noticed? Well, to be real, I first got on this game like, okay, it doesn't look that bad. You know, back in the day, I was probably playing this, loving the way the graphics look and stuff. And we all do know back then our brains were probably a little bit weird to where we thought the games most likely looked better than they did or something. But playing Pro Street now in 2025, I think this game is aging pretty dang well. And I do know a lot of people loved it. And on top of that, I do know a lot of people were kind of mixed on it. With that being said, though, I am really curious to know what y'all really thought about Pro Street. Like, jumping back on this game in 2025, I really did want to play through it. Again, as I did mention earlier, I never actually got to beat the game, so I was really interested in playing this, going through the campaign and stuff, really going through the events, learning different things. I got in, not going to lie, kind of not liking the way the drag cars were. I actually kind of hated drag in this game. I hated drift, but I was going through like, okay, you know what? Why are my mirrors flapping like a dog with ears, bro? Y'all see that? Look at my mirrors right there. No, but when I was going through this game, though, looking at some stuff, I'm like, okay, well, let me get some better cars first. Let me try some other things out. And then, boom, I will jump back into this, give this another shot here. And, well, Turns out, guys, I do feel like going through some of the events and also having better vehicles is probably going to make a big difference. Who would have thought? Like, if you're going to be starting out using something like the Cobalt and stuff like that in Drift, or even in Drag for that matter, then probably using some weird car for Drag or something like that, you're probably not going to have a great time. You're most likely going to be using some weird drift car and go, okay, well, this thing isn't going to be that great. Let me try this thing out again or something like that, right? Let me get a better car. And then it's most likely going to be a better overall experience there. I feel like that's something everybody will most likely experience a bit. And that's something I also did end up going through, especially playing the game again, pretty much going through it. Whoa, lag in there, bruh. But pretty much going through the game again, going, okay, well, I got to get better cars. At first, I was kind of playing through some of the events. I'm like, you know what, man, I'm not really having that much fun. Am I missing something here? But you know what? I was like, okay, well, hold on a second there, Block. Let's just play the game a bit. Let's go through it. Let's give it a chance here. And well, it turns out getting past some of the main events, getting some money up, getting some better cars, upgrading those, going into the events, guys, things honestly got much easier for me. And I feel like that's probably going to be the case in a lot of these games to where you start off really slow, or you don't have vehicles you're probably not the biggest fan of, so you jump in there and go, okay, well, let me wait, let me get some better cars, and it's probably going to be a better overall experience for you, and most likely in the events and all that. But I'm also noticing I am kind of destroying the Porsche here, which is kind of insane, guys. I've crashed multiple times into pretty much every single wall, and yeah, I keep crashing into things, which is kind of unfortunate, but let me see what I can do here. Now, if you are wondering, again, with this, I am going to be using a PS5 controller, so all I basically did was going to be the wire of the PS5. I put that in the PS3, and yeah, it seems to be working just fine. The only thing is, if you are going to be using a PS3 controller, though, or, you know, compared to a PS5 controller, the one thing I want to recommend is, you can't go back into the main PlayStation menu, so what I normally do is unplug the PS5 controller, plug in the PS3 one. That way I can close the games out and stuff like that. Not really a huge deal, but something I would recommend keeping in mind when you are going to be doing this. But either way, though, I'm on the final lap on this race here. Then I'm going to move over to a drift event. You know what's funny? I went off the road every time right there, bro. Every time, and my car is absolutely cooked. Luckily, I basically use most of my money now on the car marker thing so I can fix my vehicles, because I noticed the higher end cars get really expensive to fix, like 15 grand sometimes and stuff, and yeah, that money can go kind of quick considering once you do the events in this game, I was noticing you don't make as much money from them, so that is something I was trying to consider. But either way, guys, the final turn here. Oh, I hope I don't run into this dude. Oh, that was perfect. Went right around him. Here we go, guys. The last race here, or at least I guess you could say the last lap, and I easily won that. But you know what? Let's now move over to a drag event and see how I can do in there. But after that, though, guys, I did want to jump into the next event here, which is going to be a half-mile drag event with the lovely Toyota Supra. Funny part is, I was mentioning earlier that I wasn't the biggest fan of drag in this game, and once I started playing the game where I was actually jumping into more drag events, I really started to get the hang of this. Now, the thing is, I do understand you have to, like, pretty much heat the car up and stuff like that, which is something I was doing in this. You pretty much have to get in the green thing and get the grip higher up, and sometimes I would try to aim for, like, a perfect one, but I pretty much always got like an incredible grip on that point, and I figured that would be the best way to do it. The Toyota Supra is also a monster. You guys are going to see in the background the first clip I did end up doing here. I kind of misshifted. I was then going to mess up, hit the other racer, basically went way too quick, and I really would say the misshift kind of messed me up. I then hit my nitrous, lost control of the Supra, and kind of crashed there, and then I did end up having to restart, basically jump in, because we all do know that was not going to work. Now, one thing I do want to mention, though, is I was going to do some of these events live and play the game a bit, but the way my setup is with the PS3 and the way the PS3's fan is, guys, it was insanely loud, so I am pretty much going to be doing, like, voiceovers going over some of the events that way. That way you're not going to hear, like, the insanely loud fan in the background, because I don't think anybody does want to hear that. I also don't have the correct editing software, at least I have the upgraded one, to where I will be able to completely get rid of it. But the next one here, though, I am going to be getting a second grip run. Now, this is going to be a way better run in the Superman. Again, going for an incredible grip, guys. I would say a lot of players probably struggled a bit with the drag cars. I was seeing a lot of people going, yo, I can't drive them. Funny part is, I wasn't always getting a perfect shift. Sometimes I would then get the car into 6th gear, pretty much aiming to hit my nitrous on the half-mile drags every time I did it. 1188 guys on the second run with the Supra goes to show how great this car really is. And I guess in some ways that's technically going to be my first run because I completely destroyed the other first one I had. But going into the second run now, seeing if I can beat it. Funny part is, once I get like a decent run, I see what the AI are going to get. I'm like, all right, well, I'll just take that and I'll pretty much fly through them. Sometimes I do kind of bad, sometimes I do not. But a few things I did notice, guys, about drag, specifically when I was doing this in Need for Speed Pro Street again. I'm going to be real, this was definitely one of the things I did not like back in the day when I did end up playing this game, because for one, I really did not give the game a chance, which I pretty much jumped in. I was kind of like, all right, well, I'm not liking the drag, I'm probably not going to play this game anymore. I never really got far into it, but this time I'm basically coming up to the end of Need for Speed Pro Street, going through most of the events, pretty much completing all there really is to do in the game. I do have all the boss fights, still a few events left there and stuff like that, but when I was looking at doing some of these drag events back in the day, I was using the Cobalt, which apparently the Civic is going to be a better vehicle. That's what I did end up using for a couple of runs there. I also did end up getting the Plymouth Roadrunner, which was going to be a free vehicle. I put some money into it. Drove that for a little while to get through some of the race days, and then I did end up buying the Supra, and well, I pretty much never really looked back after that. I was then leveling up the Supra a bit, basically jumping into different events, and funnily enough, I was pretty much destroying every single event in the Supra, guys. The car wasn't always going to be maxed out. I decided to do it. I was like, I'm at the end of the game here. I'm probably going to have to go against the final boss or whatever with it, so I might as well make sure this car is going to be able to run sevens, and well, it is now going to be able to do that in the quarter mile, so I would say this car is going to be insane. Besides that, though, let's now move over to a drift event. Besides all of that, though, now heading into the race day here, I am going to do the drift event here, guys. Now, one thing that's funny about this is I would say the drift class specifically over drag is probably everybody's most hated class in this game. When I went into it, I was like, nah, it can't be that bad, right, man? Drifting really can't be that bad in Pro Street. I really never did it back in the day, so let me level up a bit, let me try it out. And I would say the biggest thing is, yeah, it's pretty wonky, man. I'm not gonna lie. The first thing I basically did is I was looking at some forums and stuff. I was going through it. I was like, all right, let me try the RX-7 out. I did end up buying this car. It's very cheap. You don't really have to level it. I then jumped in, guys, and you're going to be looking at the footage in the background here, literally using a PS5 controller on the PlayStation 3, which, by the way, if you're wondering, very easy to do. I'm probably going to be getting some questions about that, but all you have to do is use the regular cable you get with the PS5, plug it into the PS3, and you're basically good to go using that controller afterwards. The only thing is, though, you will not be able to go to like the home button on the PS3, so make sure you're going to have that PS3 handy besides that. But the footage you guys are looking at in the background using the RX-7, though, all I am literally doing is using the analog stick, the gas, and the brake. I'm not in manual, nothing else. The RX-7 is legit that good. I've actually think when I was leveling the car up a little bit because I was kind of slow in some places, I knew if I was faster I would be able to get a higher score. Turns out after I did that, I pretty much have never lost a drift event since then. I got around 3,024 points on this one, which I would say is pretty dang good. The AI is going to be around 2,600 on most of the events I did. They were probably around 26 to like 2,800 for the most part on most of the events I did. So like it wasn't terrible. Like you pretty much knew what you had to get. And then we all do know certain vehicles are probably going to be wonky. I think it was earlier on in the game you had the chance to get the what was it? It wasn't the GTO. It was like was it the Pontiac GTO, the two-door looking car? I was driving that car a bit in the event. It was decent, but I also did want to use the RX-7 over that. I just feel like it's so dang stable, man. Like, look at this. You barely have to do much. You pretty much turn it a little bit and boom. That is all you actually have to do. Like, it's so simple to drive this thing and drift with it, get a dominating score every time. You don't have to try that hard with it. I do know a lot of players that not like the drifting physics, which I gotta admit, they probably could have been a bit better. But again, this is going to be a game from 2007, man. I mean, come on, we're almost 18 years later looking at the drifting in the current games. I feel like a lot of people might look at something like this game and go, you know what, maybe it isn't that bad looking, right? Maybe the drifting in this isn't that bad. Maybe it could be a little bit better in some places, right? I'm sure we could probably all agree with that in some places. But even then, though, I feel like this game being older, the drifting is not terrible if you use the right vehicle. But if you don't, then you are most likely probably going to be very similar to I was, pretty much hating the drifting. Funny part is, though, if you guys do hate that, at least you will be able to buy the RX-7. jump on in there and basically get really high scores not having to try that much. I would say maybe the Corvette might be good, but pretty much every forum I was on after I did end up using the RX-7, pretty much everybody was like, you only have to use the RX-7, man. There's no other vehicle you have to run. Surely enough, I would say this car is easily going to be the most stable. Legit turning your analog stick a little bit, hitting the gas or the brake, trying to keep the car stable. That is literally all you have to do. I mean, heck, you don't even need nitrous with this thing. Now, I would say if you do want to max the car out, guys, I would recommend being a tad careful. Mine is basically maxed out for, I guess you could say, how high the car can get with stage 3 parts and all that. But even then, though, I would say people might end up recommending, yo, maybe not have your car maxed out. But personally, guys, after doing a bunch of drift events, I would say it's not truly going to matter that much. If your vehicle is going to be maxed out, at least if you are thinking about revisiting the drifting in Pro Street, being almost 18 years later, then yeah, you might be in for a complete treat doing this. Don't get me wrong, it's probably going to be incredibly wonky. Ask me how I know, because it really is going to be a very weird experience overall. But besides that, though, I do want to jump into the speed challenge now here with the lovely Murcielago. Now, the funny part about this car, guys, I do know a lot of people are probably going to assume that the Zonda is the best vehicle, but after playing through Pro Street a lot, and I was like, okay, well, let me get that car. I did end up using a car voucher thing on it. I liked it, but at the same time, that dang Zonda was so unstable, man. You would go really fast. Like, yeah, the car does like 250 something miles an hour, but good luck handling it. I would say if you probably maybe mess around with the vehicle a bit, then yeah, it would probably be a bit better. Decided to get the lovely Murcielago here. As you guys can see in the back, I'm not going to be doing the best driving out there, but I would say the Murcielago is going to be so dang entertaining, man. It legit handles great. Even if you're going to be driving as bad as I am, I do know when you're doing the high speed races and stuff, it is going to be a bit twitchy and stuff using the analog sticks, even on the PS5 controller. Got to be a little bit easier with it there, trying to keep your speed up and all that. But even then, though, luckily it's still going to be doable as long as you're not going to like whip the car back and forth and stuff. I am curious to know what y'all think about the overall sense of speed in Pro Street. Do y'all like it? Did you like the speed events? I was noticing a lot of players probably didn't like drift, at least looking at the forums. And then on top of that, a lot of people are also not the biggest fan of these speed challenges, but I am curious to know what y'all think. Did you enjoy them? What was the one class you didn't like? If I had to guess, it's probably going to be drift and then most likely drag or something, but at least from the research and the things I have noticed when looking at this stuff, pretty much on a bunch of different forums. Overall, though, guys, I have to admit, jumping back on the Need for Speed Pro Street almost 18 years after it did end up coming out, playing this game once again on the PlayStation 3, I am so glad I actually jumped back onto it, gave this game another shot. We all do know back in the day, maybe being like a kid and stuff, you might have not realized how good the game was, or maybe there's a few things you might have not been a fan of, so I'm glad I did end up trying this again. When I was in that game store, I saw Pro Street, I was like, let me get it, let me try this game again. Maybe I'm going to like it, let me give the game a chance, let me get better cars, let me level up a bit, and surely enough, well, getting a better drag car made the experience so much better. Also, getting a better drift car also made that way better than eventually doing the speed challenges. Never did those back in the day. I do gotta admit though, the sense of speed in this game with the bounciness of the roads and all that probably make cars even worse, but then again, that's probably going to come down to maybe which vehicle you might run. Like, for example, the Zonda is going to be fast, but you're probably looking for stability, so maybe an all-wheel drive car is the better option. I would say a lot of people are most likely going to agree, guys, that using something like an all-wheel drive vehicle on the events is probably going to make it better. Now, the one thing I am curious about, though, that I do want to end this video off with is we all do know Pro Street is, well, let's be real. It's going to be a different formula to what people probably expect from a Need for Speed game, right? For example, when I'm thinking about Need for Speed, what do I think about? Well, that is going to be fairly simple. It's probably going to be illegal street racing, police and stuff. You're most likely going to look at Pro Street and go, okay, well, let me try this game. I do know people love it, and in fact, I gotta admit, I am also enjoying this game, guys, even though it took me around, what is it, maybe 14 years since I've played it. Now jumping back on, I do like the game. I respect it. I think it's pretty dope, and we all do know the game is going to be old, so you kind of have to look at it in that aspect, but that's also going to be a subjective thing. I feel like players might go, okay, well, this is good, this isn't. It can also be for newer games, am I right? But a lot of players might look at something like Pro Street and go, I'm not looking for a track-based game. Or funny part is, this was also going to be a festival type of racer all the way back in '07. Ain't that kind of insane, man? It's technically one of the oldest festival races we've ever gotten. Kind of odd, am I right? But you know what? I can pretty much keep rambling on. We all do know Pro Street was going to be a different experience overall compared to the newer games, and we all do know it's going to be different compared to the older games back in that era. Do let me know what y'all think about Pro Street in the comments below. I am curious to know what y'all think about this game because I feel like a lot of people love Pro Street on the same side of it they didn't. I am really curious to see what the comments are going to say seeing Pro Street again here in 2025 on the PlayStation 3.